My name is Randall, Werk Senior. I'm from Hayes. Right now, I am the Aaniiih Mountain representative. Represent all the Aaniiih people south of Peoples Creek, essentially. Really, once you get on the council, you represent P and Iitaanɔɔn'i and all the people. But you know, like if there's any kind of focused issues or whatever, I usually try to carry those for this district. Some of the duties. Currently, I'm the oversight of public safety, so like law enforcement, prosecution, public defender, buffalo, fish and game, DES, transportation. There's a couple more like volunteer fire and stuff like that too. And then I'm also the co-chair of what we call human services, which is like commodities, social services, senior citizens, like the centers and stuff. I'm currently running for the president of the Fort Ballon Indian Community Council. Why? Yeah. I just feel like I've been on there a little while. Formerly I was an instructor at Aaniiih College. Taught like federal Indian law, tribal government, things like that. I feel like I had like a two-dimensional understanding of what it is on the council, what it's supposed to be, things like that. I feel like everybody kind of has that, an idea at least, from their perspective of what it means, but I think till you've actually done it, then it's different. Because there's a real big like human factor, you know, it's pretty humbling. You realize you're one of 10, you know. I got a kick out of it the other day. They were teasing my son Gabriel about getting a job with the tribe or something because his dad's working there or something like that. He's a pretty smart kid. He said, no, he said, I don't think I'll ever work for the tribe. He said, I don't want to be subject to the whims of the 10. He said, you know, and I think that's a perception that's there too, and it can be true sometimes, I guess, you know. And the reason I'm running is to hopefully kind of put a damper on some of that stuff, you know. Like, before I ran, just for the seat that I'm currently holding, I just did a lot of studying and whatnot, and like what makes a tribe a successful tribe, what makes a tribe kind of idle or kind of stuck. And that's what there's studies out there like with literal roadmaps for these tribes are doing this, and because of the nature in which they run their tribal government or structure it so that their businesses can be successful, and the successes from these businesses are able to provide better services for the communities and whatnot. Things like that. There's a Harvard study out there by a man named Joseph Kalt, K-A-L-T, not a cult like a voodoo cult or whatever. And he just talks about, and he's been studying it for a couple decades now, and I think he calls it, I don't know, kind of like the business as usual type councils, and those are kind of like the more stereotypical, you know. I'm gonna hire my my friend because he was good at basketball 30 years ago or 20 years ago. So now I think he can run this department or be the director or something like that, and things of that nature that are same thing, like nepotism, bringing your relatives in there and stuff. And I don't think that's really rampant here, but it has happened in the past, you know. I think we've all seen that. So it's like ends up being like a stereotype that gets perpetuated. Being really grant dependent, you know. Start up a whole division or a program with a grant that has a 2-year lifespan, and then that grant runs out, and then the tribe ends up picking up the cost to keep that program going. In some situations that's not a terrible thing, you know what I mean? In others it's a detriment, you know. There should be a sustainability model built into all that, and I feel like my running mate Al Bigby and I have a pretty good idea of how to do that, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying I could do things better, but I know we could do things different, and there's a lot of good candidates running, and I think we'll be in good hands, you know, no matter what happens. So I guess asking for an opportunity or a chance to try to do things the way we tell people we're gonna. We kicked our plan out right away so that everybody kind of knows, you know, this is the direction we want to go. Not foolish thinking we could do it single-handedly or unilaterally, like a tyrant or anything like that. You know, we understand we'll need the help of all the other people who are elected, and have to have a willingness and a want to work with them and the directors and the other employees who will be kind of have to help us implement some of these changes. At the end of the day, you know, the choice is theirs. They pick who they think is the best or who they support the most, you know. Just kind of go back to, I think I have the ideal education to help with this position. Master's degree in Indigenous People Studies is what it's really called, and it had a very direct focus on like federal Indian law, tribal government, water law, natural resource law, and all these different types of legislative and judicial decisions that affect Indian country. And that's actually the main reason like I pursued that degree, is I wanted to understand why things are the way they are here. About 2014, I was sitting up at the Hay School, and there was these water experts, these lawyers, the same ones we're working with today, and they were giving a presentation, and I feel like I can understand things pretty well, but I wasn't able to keep up, and it was frustrating for me. And kind of that made me really want to pursue that. And there was another man in the room, Jerome Maine at the time, and he had served previously on the council and whatnot, and he had a pretty good grasp of it, but it was a decades-long process by then. And now we're rolling into nearly 40 years of negotiation and back and forth and things like that, and a lot of people don't realize that there's a long history related to it, you know. It just kind of flares up and dies down depending on whether that council administration wants to pursue those things. So I have a good grasp of that now, I feel like today, and I feel like that's ideal because those are a lot of the current issues on the table. Those are a lot of the current issues that we're facing right now. I can understand in the next administration, it doesn't matter who gets in there, but the likelihood of that water settlement being passed through Congress is really great. Really, it should have passed this time, but national politics played a big role. The Freedom Caucus, the switch over in the Speaker of the House from Speaker McCarthy to Speaker Johnson, and that I think somebody has to have a kind of a grasp of who the players are over there too, who makes the things happen at the state levels. Jonathan Windy Boy, Mike Fox is a state senator, is also running for candidacy for the vice president here, They're all like really big players, and they're understanding who they are, but even locally, like at the state level, being willing to work with county commissioners and whatnot to address like drug issues, things like that, right across the border, And we see that happening now, just in my position as public safety, A lot of the drug distribution routes now, they kind of shifted, and they come, but a lot of the big shipments don't come directly to the res, and they're kind of split up, and they come in little batches, so people don't get in much trouble, or they don't take as big a loss if they get busted and things like that. And we need counties' help to Phillips County, Blaine County, Fergus County. We need their help to try to quell some of that. Really, like, that's, I think, some of the reasons people maybe might want to vote for me. I'm not saying they're reasons they should. Also, just understanding that, we need more support for our people who do struggle with like addiction, alcohol, drug abuse, things like that, because those things, like, I kind of consider them more like maintenance chores, like laundry or dishes. I think it's fantasy to think that you can just abolish drugs and alcohol and the problems that they present. They're always going to be here. There's always going to be a market for them. And as long as there's a demand, there's going to be people willing to provide the product. So getting help for the people who utilize those methods to kind of medicate themselves, either through treatment or, just, I think it needs to be kind of a spectrum of options for them, whether it be Catholicism, Christianity, traditional, whether it be AA, whether it be whatever it takes, education. I've seen that pretty wicked, like in Aaniiih, there's this old man who's teaching at the college, and that's what it was, one of his biggest things, as a Skid Row drunk, he said, and his thing was he was presenting a scientific poster at Aaniiih one year, and there he had these bricks, and they were pressed out of broken bottles, and he said he used to go to all those corners where he'd throw his bottles and break them, and he shoveled them all up, and he was trying to like clean up after himself, a little bit. And his kind of contemporaries, people were doing the same thing as him, and he made a bunch of bricks out of them. And he started building houses with those bricks. He was like legit, like big strawberry nose. He struggled with alcohol for a long time, and I don't know. So I know education can be a path for people too, and that looked like at the time that was his path, But providing those type of opportunities to people, understanding that it's they're trying to treat some underlying things that are going on, whether it be hurts or illnesses or something else, and kind of addressing that with a little bit of compassion. I think that's ideal. But at the same time, there's people who maybe are slinging dope here, and I have quite a bit less pity for them. There's other ways to make money than off of the agony of our people, and seen it firsthand as a police officer myself, and see it destroy entire families, Make people forget about your kids and things like that. And I don't have pity for that. There's other ways to make money. So those are some reasons maybe they should or shouldn't. I believe in hard work, and some of the things that I would do administratively, take away a lot of the admin leave, that might be a big reason for people who work for the tribe to not vote for me. But I'll just be 100% honest about it. I think it's too much. I realize it costs the tribe $60,000 to $80,000 a day. It's big money. And there's other options. Something considering or kicking around is like a staggered 4-day work week, so that the businesses or the offices are open every day, but some people are working Monday through Thursday and the other people are working Tuesday through Friday, so that this maybe might boost morale or something of that nature. And it'll take a while to get those types of things in place, but I've always believed in hard work. You get paid for 8 hours, you probably work 8 hours, you know what I mean? And that's just been my philosophy, I guess. And I'm going to carry that with me throughout my life, whether I'm elected or not. Alright? Yes. Next question. Just understanding that it's a people factor, and I don't know. I think I struggle with social skills a lot. A lot of my previous work, I was driving truck. I was by myself quite a bit. As a police officer, I was by myself quite a bit. Had interactions with the people where able to be, respectful that way. But I don't like games, I guess, is really what I'm trying to say. It feels like people play games on the council for what they're interested in, or the things they want, or how to get them. If they don't like something, maybe they'll get up and break the quorum, or they kind of get little rumors going, or they, even though they know different, they'll spread misinformation. Like they'll say, oh, it'll never happen because of this, or something like that. Those kind of things really bother me, because everybody in the room knows that's not true, and you try to kick out the information as true as you understand it, and then this person kicks out the opposite, and those kind of things feel like games to me, and I don't like that. Their people should be able to make informed decisions, and if they have all the information, I feel like they're all intelligent enough to absorb it themselves and make their own choices, you know what I mean? And if they're kicking out the wrong stuff, then it's a little bit different. and they don't have the right information. Strictly language, that's a big factor. Might be right now, I'd say the biggest factor. Aaniiih, then, some interpretations of that is he speaks white clay. He's a white clay person, or he's a person that speaks that white clay language. And I think that in and of itself is a self-designation. I'm a person that speaks that. Me, not well, but I try to understand it, try to learn it as best as I could. Currently amateur, or whatever. But I would say that primarily language, that's what makes us who we are, and it also kind of sets our worldview. I think I talked about this before too, just how we see things, Aaniiih, how it's our Sundance Lodge, Iitaanɔɔn'i, that's meat, things like that, but really they're about sacrificing and giving up, and like all we have is Iitaanɔɔn'i, ourselves. That's what we give up, is Iitaanɔɔn'i, what we carry. It's the only way we come in this world, buck-ass naked, it's all we got. At the end of the day, you can't take gold, jewels, houses, cars, any of that shit with you. You're going in the ground to be the dirt again, And sorry, am I getting too philosophical there? But I'm just saying, I feel like that's a worldview. Iitaanɔɔn'i, meat, all that buffalo has sacrificed itself for us to live, give us everything, clothes, lodge, food, show us, hey, go here, this water's okay to drink, we didn't die, you won't die, things like that. Showed us everything. I think we need to shift from consumer mindset to a producer mindset, making everything in-house. I'm talking about having our own bank. We already have our own insurance company, but expanding the services. We pay a company somewhere else to insure our vehicles, to insure all our buildings, to insure all these different things. When we have a company that's capable of doing that, as long as it expands its services, and that's money that's going right into there, that's going to unlock restricted funds that we have to use to pay for those things, and flip that dollar in-house. That's one example. I know right now, previously I talked about cannabis and them not being able to get that across the finish line, but right now, that's moved, Like I said, Councilman Ball, Councilman Stiffon, they played a big role in pushing that initiative forward. We got economic development arm of our tribe tasked with technical assistance for drafting the code, making sure it doesn't conflict with any of our other codes. And as a tribe, we have a bit of an advantage at the state level, where we can start at a tier 5. We could have a larger facility, we can have more plants under a canopy, we have more options, and we start ahead of the game, as if we were an individual person trying to start a business like that. And so it's kind of like on an accelerated path. They're already pursuing that license, and that's on outside of the res. In-house, there's a lot of different things we could do here that aren't subject to state regulations. So we can do cannabis different growth and things like that within the borders of the reservation that are still subject to federal laws, things of that nature. But there's pretty much a stance that we're not going to prosecute these types of crimes on federal lands. That's already been a memo put out by the Department of Justice. Another memo, I forget the names of them off the top of my head, but says, we're not going to use any of these DEA funds to prosecute this specific type of crime related to this specific type of cannabis doings, basically. So that's how states are allowed to do it, and tribes are subject to those same type of kind of waivers. A lot of people worry about, oh, well, all of our federal funding will be in jeopardy, but that's not a factual statement. Tribes are sovereign to a degree, and the federal government, obviously, they have ultimate authority, but that's pretty much their stance right now, is a stationary stance. The Trump administration is looking to even reschedule cannabis as Schedule 3, which is very low risk. Societally, the view on that has shifted quite a bit. Some other examples, like, well, when I drove truck for BIA roads, I drive all the way to Malta to haul gravel up here to the canyon or anywhere else where we were working on projects, and that killed me. We have gravel here, we just need to process it and make it so it's available to us. And we're fortunate we bid on the hot plant at BIA, and no other tribes bid, so we're going to have our own gravel crusher. It's going to be on its way. Right now it's at the mechanic shop. They're looking it all over, make sure it's sound and able to run, and that'll be here probably by the fall. They should be mobilizing it here. So then we need to get other things that can complement it, like a mobile hot plant. See that one outside of Harlem they set up for the paving that road, roughly $2-3 million. That's an investment that cost savings over time will pay for itself, along with being able to sell it to the county or whoever, is doing projects in the area as well. Because right now we gotta drive all the way up and buy our asphalt from Bill Baltrush in Havre. And, while that's great for him, that's money that could be here flying off the reservation. And there's a leakage study a while back that says like 75% of every dollar leaves the reservation quickly. It's here and poof, it evaporates fast. The idea is to unlock these restricted federal dollars and flip them back inside the bounds of the reservation so that they can provide better services as well. Cement plant, the same way. Every house has a foundation, sidewalks, septic tank, things like that. Every house needs those things. Absolute, And if we're able to pour our own, we don't have to pay Jay Carney or whoever's running his multi-ready mix anymore. Havre ready mix. Is that Patrick or is that Baltrush as well? I don't know. But anyways, like I said, these are dollars that could stay in-house that are already here at the tribe, but they're flying off the reservation to pay somebody else for things we could do ourselves. That's what I mean, thinking like a nation, thinking like a producer and not a consumer. You know what I mean? Something else we're doing, I guess, or that's been happening. Like, we bought 10 of our own casino machines. Previously they were renting them, and the profits were being split 90-10. So 90% of every profit that came off of that machine went to this company that we had a contract with. 10% came back to the tribe. So the profits of our casino were really, really marginal. Now we own 10 machines, 100% of that profit could come here. You know what I mean? Just like I said, that type of mindset and shifting it from this is what we've known, this is what we've asked permission, things like that. And because that's sovereignty. It's unlocking dollars for ourselves. People throw the word sovereignty around a lot. Taking care of yourself is really all it is. Taking care of your people. Agreeing as a group that, hey, dope dealing's not okay. Hey, child molestation is not okay. You know what I mean? As a group, we agree that these are laws. Beating up your grandma, beating up your wife, beating up your husband, beating up your kids. Like, all these things are not okay. So we make laws to that effect. You know what I mean? Well, there are some things that are happening now. And there's like a lot more like that in the future that we're looking at. I went over to Santee Sioux over in Flandreau, South Dakota, and like they had an assisted living center for their tribe, for their elders there. 100% privately financed. That person that financed it understood. They said, hey, this is a slam dunk. We just need to get 15, 20 people to live here, and we're able to make a marginal profit on it over time. You know what I mean? That's a service that the tribe doesn't have to run, but it's a service that will be here for our people. It wouldn't be a full-fledged care center like up in Haber where we got a doctor on site 24/7, but that type of facility is way more heavily regulated, and this type of facility, similar services, a lot of in-house care, things like that, but we don't have a doctor there. I think the woman that was running it had like a bachelor's or a master's in, you know, what is it? I don't know, like exercise technology or something like that, you know. But it was cool because it was a beautiful place. There were elders there moving around, you know, and they weren't like full dementia or full Alzheimer's or anything like that, but if they needed care, they had it there. And it was right there on the res. I thought that was amazing. And the tribe didn't cost the tribe. The tribe just pursued that funding through a private funder. To me, like, that type of thinking has to happen here too. It's not an alternative revenue source, but it's a way to provide services that otherwise weren't here or wouldn't be here, aren't here now. You know what I mean? Currently the model though is the tribe provides more services than they're able to pay for. That's why it's upside down. That's where money seeps out, the black hole or whatever they call it, the general fund. There's a lot of times these programs that go over budget, there's a transfer line item in that general fund budget that goes directly to cover the overruns of these other programs. So that's where we're at right now. Well, I pursued a resolution. I have it signed, ready, dated, ready to turn into the superintendent of the BIA, Mark Azure, and it'll go in front of the people for a vote to absorb all federal Indian blood, no matter what, as either Aaniiih or Nakota. So that's my take on it. If you're 1/4 Cree, 1/8 this, 1/10 that, whatever. Okay. A lot of other tribes do this, and no other blood is recognized as what it is. It's just all your Indian blood is Indian blood for that tribe, like the Crow, for example. If you're Sioux, if you're Dene, if you're whatever, doesn't matter. That federal Indian blood is Crow. So they do that down in Cheyenne Arapaho country as well. Not Cheyenne Arapaho, Shoshone Arapaho in Wind River. And that's a decent model. We'll only bias 50 years, overall. Compartmentalizing ourselves or fractionating ourselves is a path to genocide, I guess, path to extinction. There's a study done by some Blackfeet students, about 10 years old now, and the way they calculated it, by 2050 the last enrollable Blackfeet under their current model would be born. And I think we're ahead of that by a bit now. We don't have anybody. I think we have one woman who's 4/4 Aaniiih. That's it. Everybody else is less than that by that standard. You know what I mean? So to address your other question though, what makes a person an Aaniiih or Nakota? It's right here. How do you think? This is where you're supposed to think from, they say. I'm not talking about Biggie Smalls' head either. Right here, huh? Your heart. That's what makes you Aaniiih or Nakota. How do you view one another? I'll help you. I'm not going to do it for you. You know what I mean? That's a mentality that doesn't exist anymore long ago. Oh, they were generous, they give horses, they give guns, they give all these things, right? They didn't go out there and do all the work for you, build your house, make your birch claw, and all that stuff, right? They give you a means to tend to yourself. And we were always hard workers. We still are. Just some of us are hurt. Some of us are a little bit damaged, and we gotta tend to some of that first, but we'll all be able to stand up again. Just gotta recognize and realize that we're drowning in a foot of water. You know what I mean? We've always been strong people. Iitaanɔɔn'i is we're the high water mark. I like that. That doesn't mean it's a privilege. It means it's a big, big responsibility. A lot to live up to, a lot to hold and carry. So I guess it's how you think, how you move, how you live. You know what I mean? If you're here causing generations of damage through being a bad person, hurting your family, hurting P and Iitaanɔɔn'i and all the people, maybe you need to be out for a while. Maybe you need to go away for a while. There's opportunities for people to come back too, though, We had ceremonies for all that. They're all still there. We just need to pick them back up again. You know what I mean? Incorporated into our societies. And I don't mean these box societies where there's certain members. I mean P and Iitaanɔɔn'i and all the people, how we live. The African societies where when a kid does a bad thing, everybody comes around them and tells them they love them, still holds them up. Still, they're not bad, they don't have to go away. Maybe we should do that for our kids as a society. A lot of our kids, they don't have parents, things like that. But our traditional familial structures are broken, Like all my brothers are supposed to be my kids' dad. I'm supposed to show them how to be men if I die, right? All my sisters are supposed to be my kids' aunts. I'm supposed to show them how to be men when it comes to women, how you treat women, how you move, things like that, you know what I mean? So they understand their role from that perspective, maybe. And the opposite is true for my daughters. All my brothers are their uncles. I'm supposed to show them how to be when they're around men, I guess, maybe. You know what I mean? And in today's society, 2000s, whatever, it's, that's bad, and then we kind of made like aunties and uncles, like made it a gross thing, But and then all of their mothers, sisters are their mothers, other mothers. I think that's cool, man. It's different. We don't have that today. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's already a resolution in place. It's going to get handed to Mark Azure on the last day, whether I get elected or not. And there'll be an election about it. And about 90 days after that, where all the people will get to decide whether or not they have. Why do I think it's important? Because it introduces our traditional names and our language to the everyday vernacular, not only here amongst all of our people, but throughout the whole world. Whenever they look at that, that's Aaniiih and that's Nakota, and everybody who looks at us has to refer to us that way. That's putting us back where we should be in everyday thought, in everyday speech. Soft power, big deal. Adopting Aaniiih and Nakota languages as the official languages of the Aaniiih and Nakota Nation. Back to your earlier question, what makes us who we are? You know what I mean? It's ignorant. People are self-conscious about it. If they can speak, if they can't, you know what I mean? Really good speakers will clam up and shut down around other speakers because they're worried that maybe they'll say that wrong, maybe they'll do that wrong, things like that. All that stuff has to taper off so that we're proud. We're moving in that direction. Seeing men who are maybe 2 generations ahead of me cry to watch ceremonies come back here that never existed, that they only heard about when they were little boys and little girls. And in their lifetime they came back and they got to see them. And they cried, and they're not here anymore. 70s and 80s, you never hear wahe in the store, in town. Simple thing, wahe. Now, unfortunately, I hear it almost every day. Beyond the bounds of the reservation. Restoring our name and recognizing ourselves as such, we do that in every single mouth that speaks about us. They're already doing it at Aaniiih Nakota College. 15 years behind at the tribe. They made that change in 2011. They went from Fort Belknap College to Aaniiih Nakota College. Maybe thought that. And on and then wait, Nakona, Nakoniabi, Nakoda, Zainam. Niki, that's a good life. Love you, you're Aaniiih, you're Nakota people, that's a good life. That would be my message. It's not a given. We're fighting today so that everything that you have 1,000 years from now could still be language. This homeland, this is unceded land right here that we're sitting on. Our people are buried here for generations upon generations. This land within the 4 borders here, never given up to the federal government, ever. Unceded land. People think of it as a prison. They think of it as, oh, they made us be here. This is our homeland to begin with. It's never been given up. We should take care of it like that. Hopefully it's there 1,000 years from now. Hopefully it's expanded back to its original place. Hopefully we understand better that we could work with other tribes, because we all end up in the same boat again, back to this. The United States is only, what, 1773, it's only like 250 years old. Empires come and go. Hopefully we'll still be here. We were down to 600 individual members at one time. Now there's only 5,600 and something Aaniiih people in the whole world. In the whole world. But we're everywhere in the world. We have soldiers in Germany, we have soldiers in Somalia, Kuwait, South America, on ships across the ocean, people working in businesses, Japan, China, Korea, people with my grandpa's last name, Randall, on a base in Korea. It says Randall right on their little, military, what is this name, badge, tag, I don't know. That's badass. I want us to be here 1,000 years from now, still on this land.